General Capshaw enlists Bloodshot and Eidolon to rescue Tama from the former Geomancer known as Deathmate. But in the end, which Geomancer will survive? We're going to find out in our review of the Valiants #2 from Valiant Entertainment. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. Before we dig into the review for this issue, let's briefly recap what happened in issue #1. General Capshaw gathered select members of the former Valiants team to investigate a massive sinkhole opened up in the heart of Washington, D.C. She got the Eternal Warrior and Ninjak and a few other folks, and they jumped down into the hole, and they found this weird sort of jungle-like oasis down at the bottom of the hole. They fought giant centipede-like bugs and investigated a strange pyramid that had a glowing portal at the top of the pyramid. After the fight, they managed to close the portal, get rid of the strange obelisk device at the top of the pyramid, and escape to figure out what's going on and what's happening next. After that whole adventure, General Capshaw meets with Tama, who is the current Geomancer, and they are both attacked by former Geomancer Kay McHenry, who is now known as Deathmate. That brings us to the Valiants #2. We pick up with the fight. General Capshaw is in this firefight against Deathmate. She is clearly outmatched. It's not even close. And in that fracas or the melee or the ruckus or whatever word you want to use, General Capshaw is knocked out, and Deathmate gets away with Tama as her hostage. Later, General Capshaw wakes up in the new gate facility that was the converted webnet bunker. And you can read the last issue to find out how that worked out. She's afraid that Deathmate is going to do something to try and regain her power and status as the Earth's only Geomancer by somehow ripping the power out of Tama, which would not be a good thing. So Capshaw sends Eidolon off to go recruit the only person who is also a similarly nanotech-enhanced soldier, who is, of course, Bloodshot. Eidolon finds Bloodshot living in a quiet cabin off the grid. He refuses to go back after the initial introduction, but then Eidolon mentions that this is Deathmate we're talking about. She has Tama. Bloodshot says, okay. This time, Eidolon has a little weapon that could help Bloodshot make that fight go easier or smoother, which is a special bullet designed to disrupt nanotech technology. And she lets it slip that General Capshaw had the weapon developed as a failsafe against Bloodshot if he ever turned evil. But in this case, they're going to put it to good use. The Gate reconnaissance team tracks Deathmate's signal to Tiberius Labs, where they believe she intends to rip out the nanotechnology in her own body and replace it with Tama's Geomancer power. Now, it's more than likely, if that actually happens, Tama's going to die, because you can't have that power ripped away and not have some physical consequence for it. Bloodshot and Eidolon arrive. They get into a quick fight. Bloodshot uses the bullet, and surprise, surprise, it works exactly as expected. And the bullet sort of creates this disruption in all the nanotechnology inside Deathmate's body. There's a huge explosion, and everybody escapes. But Deathmate appears to be completely disintegrated or completely turned to dust, whatever you want to call it. But maybe that's not quite the full story, and that's where we end the issue. It's a pretty quick read with a pretty basic story structure, so let's move over to the character development. Really, the two main characters are the two characters to get the character upgrade, or at least explanation of what's going on. On the one side, we see Bloodshot, who's been hiding in this cabin with his quote-unquote family and trying to stay off the grid. It's very clear that he accepted the mission because it is Deathmate, but at the end of it, he definitely wants to be left alone. He wants to remain off the grid, and he wants nothing to do with General Capshaw past what he has to accomplish here. So we get it. He's very much not interested in being part of the team again. On the other side of that, we have Eidolon, and she explains that she's chit-chatting with Bloodshot as they're moving towards Tiberius Labs that her powers are almost gone. They've been seeping away, and her telepathic abilities and her ability to manipulate DNA is almost completely gone. She has small flashes here and there, but that's about the end of it. She's still cheery, still kind of peppy, but for all intents and purposes, she's almost completely human. Let's move over to talk about the art from Al Barrionuevo, who we mostly are familiar with as a cover artist. So here he's doing the internal pages. And I have to say, the art's not bad. The finer details are rough, especially in the hatching and some of the textures and contouring. It's sketchy, it's rough. The book looks, I would say, to be fair, unpolished. It's not bad art necessarily, but it's okay. So serviceable at best is what we could say. Let's move over to pacing and structure, both of which are solid. They're pretty okay. Katie's the sequence of scenes makes sense. The scenes are easy to follow. The scene transitions are smooth. The basic premise of plot, which is basically an excuse to get Eidolon and Bloodshot into the mix, who are newer characters from what was introduced in the issue number 1. And there's a little bit of a cliffhanger. We're not going to spoil it here, but it's pretty okay. I would say strong almost. That said, the battle between Bloodshot, Eidolon, and Deathmate at the end felt, I won't say rushed, but it was too quick. It was just too easy. So you didn't really feel like there was a big buildup or high stakes associated with the fight. It's a blinking, you miss it, and then it's done. Let's move over to talk about the themes. To be honest with you, there isn't much theme work accomplished here. It's pretty much a straightforward, true blue, simple hero adventure to give readers a reminder of who Bloodshot and Eidolon are and what they can do and what is their nature of the relationship and what they're all about. So thematically, it's just a quick one and done mission adventure, but there's not much depth to it at all. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. The one thing that may or may not be off, we're not quite sure yet because it's too early to tell, is this series seems either disconnected or in a different universe or a parallel timeline or a different place in the timeline from the main Bloodshot series, because in the main Bloodshot series, which is Unloaded, Reloaded, or I forget the exact title, but he's definitely not sitting alone in a cabin with his family just trying to live a quiet life. He's off murder, killing, deathing everything in sight. So this title feels a little bit disconnected from the main Bloodshot title. Now, it could be because they're just into different points in the timeline, or they're parallel universes, or they converge. Maybe not too soon to tell, but they don't feel interconnected at this point. Final thoughts when we think about the Valiants number 2. You get a pretty simple, basic, I would even say, rescue mission as a reason to bring Eidolon and Bloodshot into the book. The action's pretty solid. Katie's plot is okay, makes sense. And Barry Nuevo's art is perfectly serviceable. It's not fantastic, but it's not going to blow you away either. This isn't the best book you're going to see on the shelves this week, and that's okay. But if you're a diehard Valiant fan, you probably want to pick this up, and it's perfectly adequate. Therefore, we're going to give the Valiants number 2 from Valiant Entertainment a 6.8 out of 10. And the only reason it's a little bit lower is because there's nothing particularly memorable about it. It's standard, but forgettable, to be honest with you. What do you think? Are you a Valiant fan? If you are, give us a thumbs up. If you're a Bloodshot fan, give us a thumbs up. Let us know. And let us know what you think about this transition of Valiant to Alien Books and how their initial titles are shaping up. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you very much for joining. And if you like more reviews just like this one, please stay tuned through the outro for the next review.